Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to have the second lesson associated with the 7-segment displays. Today we're going to really be talking about displaying the numbers, actually getting them to show up on your Arduino, and subroutines, how we're going to be able to do repetitive tasks over and over again. So today's objectives, first we're just going to program 0 and 1, turn that on. Then we're going to start talking about subroutines. Then we're going to go through program 2 through 9. And then ultimately by the end of today, you're going to be able to get your Arduino to count from 0 through 9. Ultimately, our Arduino is going to be counting 0 through 99, but we're going to be getting to that in the next couple of days. So let's jump straight into the 7-segment display in here, and I'm kind of starting off where we left off last time. Okay, I have all my integers set up. I've got everything set up as an output, and right now I have everything set as low, so nothing's on. If you haven't completed the lesson on wiring and setting up your 7-segment display, you really need to go back and look at that before you can go through the rest of this. So definitely check that out, and then come on back into this lesson so you can start talking about what comes next. So again, if we want to make a 1 here, then we need to turn on segments B and C. Remember, we start at 12 o'clock and we go clockwise. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, and then the center is G here. So we need to turn on B and C to make the number 1. So again, if I were to switch this to be high, and if I were to switch this to be high, again, B and C are both on at this point, then we get the number 1. So what we really need to do is create like a whole set of instructions to the Arduino to produce each of the like 10 different numbers, starting from 0 and going all the way up through 1. We also need to create a reset program or subroutine, because we need everything to switch back to low again before it goes to its next. Otherwise, the numbers start to jumble up with one another. And I'll explain that a little bit more later on. So the first thing that we really need to do actually is, well, let's just start off with creating like we already have a 1 here, so that's good. So above that, we can do some work up here. Okay, so we can first create this program where we say, okay, so we're going to digital write, and in 0's case, I want A to be high, because I want the top segment to be on. I want to digital write B high. I also need to turn C, D, and E to high. I'm going to copy that. Okay. So when we come into here, I have C, D, and E. They're all going to be high. Okay, now if I go to turn on my simulation here, oh, what's it mad about? Digital write was not declared. TIG. Oh, forgot an I. All right, let's try that again. So now we're starting to see something where we've got something funky going on over here. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F. Forgot F. So we'll turn on F here. Okay, so there's a 0. But again, like our 1 isn't showing up even though it should be, because like it's turning on without turning all of the 0 off. So what we really need to do is, between our letters, we need to put a reset to turn everything off again before we're ready to turn it back on again. So if I take and I copy this code, and I drop this into here. If I take all of my segments, I can set them back to low. And now we're going to turn these on, turn these off, and then the reality is we just really need to just turn these two segments on for the one. Then we're going to need another reset program underneath of that. I'm going to have to add comments here in a second, but we'll try that first. Okay, so here we have 0, we reset, we have a 1, and we reset. So when we start the simulation, we can see it's just like a 0 because everything's running so fast, we can't see what's happening. So included in our reset, or I guess before we do our reset, okay, we're going to just do like a quick little delay. And in this case, we're going to delay for a second. And we need that after the 0. Okay, again, all of this code up here is my 0 code. This is my delay. This is my reset code, and that ends down here. And then this is the 1. This is also the 1. And then again, this is reset, and that reset ends down here. Okay, so when I start my simulation now, I have a 0. I don't. Hold on one second. Okay, I just forgot the second delay down here. Okay, so again, after 0, turn everything on. We wait a second. We turn it off. And then without waiting any time, we just want to turn it off. That resets it really quick. Now we can turn what we need on for number 1. Okay, so B and C need to be on. And again, we're going to wait a second, let that be on for a second, and then we're going to turn it all off again, and we're going to reset. So when we run this code here, we see the 1, and then it goes back to a 0. 1, 0, back and forth. Okay, so we can actually use, like you can already see in this code here, that this reset is, a pretty big and obnoxious section of code. So we can create a subroutine to do that reset for us, and we can make our code a lot cleaner. So we go back to the notes here and we look at subroutines. A subroutine is really going to be helpful for any sort of repetitive task. For right now, reset is a really repetitive task that we're going to be doing. 0 through 9, as of right now, they're not repetitive because we're only going to use each one of those numbers once. But once we count from 0 through 99, they do become repetitive because we'll use each of those numbers 100 times, 10 times, whatever it might be. So we're going to use them repetitively, okay? So when we go to add subroutines, it has to happen after the void loop, okay? And after like both curly Q brackets, the open curly Q and the closed curly Q of the loop, that's where our subroutines can be created. And when we name a subroutine, if we don't want it to return something, which in this case we don't, later on we can create like subroutines that return values. But since we don't want it to return anything, we're going to use the void header here, so that similar to like void setup or void loop, this is going to be void, and then we can name our subroutine. And in this case, it says subroutine name, but it could be anything that's not an Arduino saved word, programming word. We're going to open and close our parentheses, and then within brackets, we can do that task, whatever that might be. So in order to call a subroutine in our setup or loop, we're going to use the subroutine name again, and then we have to put the open and close brackets. Okay, that's going to call this, whatever happens within here, and at the end of that, we need a semicolon. So when we come back to here, for instance, let's do the reset stuff. So I'm just going to copy reset. I'm going to come down to here. And I'm going to, so again, my void loop starts at this point here and it ends at this point here. So down here, I'm going to say void. And in this case, I'm going to call this thing reset. Okay, so that's a name that I'm creating, reset. I open and close my parentheses there, and then I do an open bracket and a close bracket. Okay, and what goes inside of here is all of that digital write low stuff, right? So A through G is low. This is all my reset code. Okay, so where I pulled that from, well, first of all, I'm going to get rid of this other reset code. I don't need it right now because I'm going to call this from down here. So again, if we just start our simulation now, it just looked like a constant zero because we're, oh no, yeah, it almost looked like a constant zero, except I forgot to get rid of this here. So I'm going to get rid of this reset right here. And when we get rid of this and we go to start our simulation, again, it's just going to look like this zero because it's just on, goes to the next on, everything's just on, okay? So we need to add that reset back into here. So again, for right now, our time delay is going to happen at the end of our number. So we're going to tell it, okay, this is the information, wait a second. This is the information, wait a second. Okay, but here I'm going to call my reset subroutine. So in order to call all of this down here, all I need to do is say reset, put my open and close parentheses, and then a semicolon. I'm going to do the same thing underneath here. So now we're turning everything high that is needed for the zero. We're going to wait a second, and then at the end of that second of displaying all that high information, we're going to reset. So we're just going to jump down into here for a split second, turn everything off. And then the next split second, B and C are going to come on. We're going to wait a second. We're going to turn that off. So let's start our simulation there. Okay, so there's our zero, there's our one. We're back to zero again. And we keep bouncing back and forth. So that's pretty awesome, right? So we could go through this entire process, 0, 1, 2, 3, and that would be fine. And again, if we were just going to count from 0 through 9, that would probably be all we would need to do. But ultimately, we're going to count to 99. So we're going to create subroutines for each one of our numbers. So let me walk you through a few of those. Let's start off with 0 first because we already have it. Underneath our void reset, the open and close bracket here, I'm going to type in void, and in this case, I'm going to call this 0. Don't use the number, actually name it 0. So I'm going to put my open parentheses, my close parentheses, and inside my void 0, I'm going to paste all my 0 information, okay? Underneath of that one, I'm going to say void 1. And again, write out the word 1. Don't just write that in, okay? And we're going to take what is supposed to be in here, and we're supposed to drop it down into the void 1 information, okay? And then we can move on to our next. Void 2. Okay, and for void 2 here, when we think about this, again, we're going to need A, B, this is G, this is E, and then this is back down to D again, right? So I'm just kind of like going around thinking about this. So I can make my life easier and do some copy paste. This is going to be my 2 and the end of my 2. So A is on, B is on, C is on, D is on, E is not on. No, E is on, it's G. Right, so A, B, G. No, C is not going to be on. There. Okay, so again, when we look at this here, it's the number 2 comes across like this. It's A, it's B, then we come down here, and this is C, that's not on. D, E, and G, those are all the ones that are on. D, E, and G, yeah. So when we come up here, we can now start off again with 0, which is my subroutine from down below. I'm going to wait a second and reset. And then I'm going to come in again and I'm going to say 1. And I'm going to delay a second and then reset. Okay, then next is going to be 2. Delay. Again, always delay after you call your number, and then reset, and then go directly into your next number again. Okay, so we're going to reset. And then let's see how that works. So we have 0, 1, 2, back to 0, 1, 2. Okay, so what I want you to do at this point is go through and code 3 through 9 and get them to display just like this. Okay, so when we start thinking about that, the tasks, for today really are to program the 0 through the 9. Okay, we've already programmed 0, 1, 2. So we need to do at this point 3 through 9. Program the reset subroutine. Okay, so I've just walked you through that as well. And we need to program the 7-segment display to count from 0 through 9 and repeat. Remember, one thing to kind of add to this is it's always going to be call the number that you're trying to use, okay? Then you're going to delay for your seconds, and then after that, you're going to do your reset command, okay? And then that way you get what you're looking for, and things are turning on for a second before you reset, because we don't want to reset before we delay for the second, because then we're not going to see it. All right, so just make sure that when you're counting from 0 through 9, once again, if we look back here, we have A, we do 0, we wait for the second, we reset, we go to 1, we wait for the second, we reset. Okay, make sure to go through like that. All right, so tomorrow we'll talk more about what we're going to do next. We're really going to start adding like that second segment display and start working on getting it to that 99 point. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye. So just finished setting up my code here. I'm going from 0 through 9. I delay a second, I reset. I've set up all of my voids, 0 through 9. When I start my simulation here, we count 0. Okay, so we can see that we're counting up. I did have to go through and like fix a couple LED errors, so I just like went through and did that. Called the wrong things, like 5 I got backwards in my head or something. So I did that. One other thing that I want to just kind of stop and remind you guys, because I keep kind of calling it out, but if we go back to like the pinout, right? I keep saying it. At 12 o'clock, that's A. Then next to that, going clockwise, is B, C, D, E, F, and then G. So like 5, for instance, is A, F, G, C, and D. Again, if you jot that down, something similar to this over here, in your notebook, you'll have like a much easier time actually going through and setting these up. Okay, so just wanted to leave you guys off with that. Good luck today, and email me if you have any questions. All right, bye-bye.